My friends, welcome back to the show. I'm happy to have you here today. We are talking about something that is not sexy. In fact, some people might think it's boring. And if you saw the title, you're going to learn why boredom might be the best thing that's ever happened to you. And with that, let's get after it. All right. Welcome back to another episode of Getting After It, my friends. Happy to have you here. I always appreciate it when you come in and listen to your friend Brett just talk. I know I'm working on getting more guests on, so I appreciate the patience with that. But, there's a lot that I'm still learning that I want to get across to you guys, let you learn what I'm also learning, and bring you along with the journey. Getting After It is a whole journey of self-development and growth, and you are getting a real-life view of mine because I'm trying to grow the podcast, trying to expand it to where I'm doing more interviews and that kind of thing. But today's topic is one that has to be fully embraced in order to see the results from it. What I mean by that is that you have to commit to the boring work. And it's not fun, it's not sexy, but that is how you grow. Like, it's not going to be a flashy thing, but it's one of the most critical topics for anyone that's chasing meaningful goals. And when I was on at the gym the other day, I was running on the treadmill and I saw that there was a trailer for a new documentary that's coming out about baseball players, I think. But it showed them training, them going through like exercising, doing workouts in the gym, stretching, all these things that don't look sexy. And you only see them in the game, right? You see them hitting a home run or, striking someone out, whatever it is. Like, that's all the result of the work that they've put into their craft, which is baseball. And so I'm on the treadmill and I'm thinking about this thing and I'm like, that's pretty cool. And then as the trailer wraps up, this big title flashes on the screen and it said, "Boring before brilliance." That's the topic that we're going into today. There's so much behind that. Again, it's not fun, it's not sexy, but you have to embrace it if you do have meaningful goals. Nothing in life is going to be given to you. If it is a good thing, if it's an ambitious goal, it's not going to be handed to you on a silver platter, unfortunately. But we're unpacking this today. And we're going to be talking about why the boring work matters and why it often comes before your actual breakthrough. And I'm also going to talk about how to keep the momentum and the motivation there when you don't see the needle moving, at least not on the surface. You don't see the actual progress you're trying to make with said goals. And if you're in the trenches, if you're in the middle of showing up, doing the reps, and wondering if any of it is actually going to be working for you, this episode is for you. Getting After Its journey includes parts of self-doubt. It includes times of where it feels like progress is stagnant, and that's part of the journey. I think the reason why this topic really stood out to me, a couple reasons, but the first one is I related to it because a lot of the work that I do on a day-to-day basis, from the outside perspective, is boring. And I think that's why people call people like me crazy, because I'm doing the same exact thing every single day. I'm training in the gym. I'm coming home, working on my own personal progress goals, that kind of stuff. And that daily work is what brings me to where I'm at today. And the second reason I really felt like I related to this topic was this podcast. This podcast, honestly, is a lot of work. It's a lot of work. It's like a second job because I have to spend hours researching the topics. I have to actually get my thoughts down on paper, so I have to write it out. And then I have to spend time recording, editing, and then posting, promoting, that kind of stuff. Not a bad thing. I enjoy it. But there's a lot of boring work that goes into that. And if I was one to quit at the first sign of difficulty or the first sign of boredom, then this podcast wouldn't be on 118 episodes. It wouldn't be in my mind, like, how can I make it better? It wouldn't be something I'm thinking about. But embracing the fact that there's going to be boring work in any goal that you try to achieve in life, that's going to get you way farther, because then when it comes up, when it arrives, then you can say, okay, I'm on my way to a breakthrough. And it might be a few months. It could be years until that breakthrough comes. But at least you know you're doing the right thing. And I just recently got into Substack, which I've been liking a lot. It's if you don't know what it is, it's like a social media platform for writers specifically to promote their work, to, show other people what they're doing. It's for you to go on there to learn, there's actually like fiction stuff too, which is kind of cool. But I found this poem. I guess it's not a poem, but it's this little article, this little paragraph on Substack from an account called Path of Stoicism. And I'm going to read it really quickly, and then we'll go into segment number 1, which is why we resist the boring work. Here we go. You're not burnt out. You're bored. You don't need more motivation. You need more repetition. The problem isn't your potential. It's your addiction to stimulation. Success isn't exciting. It's brutally repetitive. Wake up, do the same thing, get 1% better. Repeat until it's impossible to ignore you. You're not supposed to feel something every time. You're supposed to keep going even when you don't. That's where transformation happens, in boredom, in silence, in the work that no one claps for. I love that. It sets the stage perfectly for this podcast episode. And I want to go into why do we resist the boring work? Because if you read that poem, the last part is, it's a great promise if you're able to sit with boredom. And that's where the transformation happens, in boredom, in silence, in the work that no one claps for. So with that in my head, I'm like, okay, well, if no one's going to clap for you when you're doing the boring work, if no one's there giving you a pat on the back or telling you, hey, great job with that. Great job, Brett, researching topics about how boredom actually helps people and is a good sign of growth. Great job doing that, spending 2.5 hours doing this. Like, no one's doing that for me. And it comes down to your why. You have to have a strong why, if at all you're going to be able to endure the boring work. The why is what keeps you going. And on the days when you don't have motivation, the why is a small catalyst that can get you back on the path to going and trying to achieve your goals. It's a hard thing to do, but that why has to be grounded in something very personal for yourself, and it has to be relevant. So that's what I would first say. And in order to combat the boring work, understand your why. But now let's go into why we resist it. So why do we resist monotony so much? Sometimes I try and add like really good words into this thing, but I can't pronounce them. So pretty much, why do we resist the day-to-day, daily repetitions, the times where we feel like we're in a groove but nothing's happening? Why do we resist that? Well, I think somewhere along the line of us growing up, or society, whatever, we thought and we were told that success is going to be exciting. And I think it's because, like, going back to the baseball example, you only see them hit home runs. You only see them winning games or winning the World Series. Like, you don't see all the work that goes into those results. And success is the same way. Like, whenever people come up to me and they say, hey, how do I be a great runner? Well, the answer is usually a lot of repetition, a lot of running. Like, more than you've ever had in your entire life. And soon enough, your body will adapt. It will become stronger. It will be able to handle more mileage, more speed, more pace. Your heart will get better. And eventually, you'll be able to get to the point to where you're in a race, and maybe you're going for a big milestone for yourself. But it's all the work that went into that to where on race day, you feel confident. So when you first start a new habit, And that could be hitting the gym. It could be writing a book, starting a business. Like, it feels electric. It feels like you're onto something, right? And you get all excited. You're fired up. The vision is very clear of what you want. But fast forward 2 weeks down the road, like, you're dragging yourself to that workout. You're staring at a blank Google Doc, trying to figure out what you're going to add in your book. And your motivation is completely gone. I'm sure you felt that before. I have. And it's one of the worst feelings. And it goes to the point that humans are attracted to novelty. They love that new shiny object, which could look like a habit. And it's like, oh, you know what? This is the year I'm going to get into shape. And then, like I said, 2 weeks go by, your body starts to ache a little bit because you're sore. You're getting bored of your meals, and you're like, do I even have what it takes to do this? But you have to stay in the fight. You have to learn, like, anchor your why into something very profound and personal for yourself. Because this is where most people quit. It's when they start to see that motivation start to decline. That's when they pull or they throw in the towel and they're like, I'm done. And it's not because they're lazy. I want to make that very clear. It's not because anyone's lazy. It's because they didn't expect the boredom. They didn't expect that their goal wasn't going to be sexy all the time, or that their work that went into it was going to be something difficult. It required them to actually do work. And I think it's because we live in a dopamine saturated culture. You know, we always have TikTok, fast food, fast delivery on everything that we have. So when work doesn't give us that instant feedback, our brains say, well, this must not be working then. And that's a huge lie. It's not true. Like, it's exactly in those moments when you're bored out of your mind, doubting that the work that you're doing even matters. That's where the transformation happens. That's how you take it to the next level. So when that time comes, when you do feel that monotony coming up and you're just questioning why you're going to keep pushing down this path, remember that the boring work is a sign that you're progressing. And it's probably boring because you may have never done this before. Or maybe you have and you resist it because it's not fun. Now, repetition is what's going to get you to that brilliance. The boring before brilliance, repetition is what's going to be the catalyst for all this. And that's why I talk about consistency so much. Being consistent in all your goals. I was actually talking to my friend Jared Lee at work today or yesterday. And sorry for the calling you out here, Jared, but we had a great conversation. He was asking me, he's like, so when you think about your goals, do you compartmentalize them into, you have a personal goal, you have a fitness goal, you have a work goal, a spiritual goal, like all these things, like how does that work? And I was like, that's a great question. I do that, in fact. Like I have goals specific for my job. I have them specific for my fitness, for my relationship, for my faith. And we started talking about it, and he's like, yeah, like I don't know if that works for me because like I don't have enough time to spend on those certain things because there's a lot of goals I'm trying to go after. And sometimes, spending 10 minutes a day on one isn't going to make you have a lot of progress. And I told him, I was like, that's 100% true. Like, very correct. The thing that I do is I will have my goals, but it looks very different of what I'm focusing on each time. So like I might be more focused on my professional career and work on the goals that I have in that. If, seasons come and go where, maybe a promotion's on the table and I want to work really hard, hit certain metrics and show that I can get that promotion. And so I will be spending more time on that professional goal. While the other goals, like I'll make sure that I'm still putting reps in. So with fitness, I'm still in the gym. With personal goals, like I'll make sure to still journal, still podcast. With my faith, I'm still studying it every night. And that's the same kind of thing. So like I think it might look different every time, but you have to keep doing the reps on each one to keep that momentum rolling. And before greatness comes that boring work. Like if you want the rewards, you have to do the reps. I often think about Kobe Bryant. I love Kobe Bryant. My brother and I, we grew up watching him and we played Kobe and Shaq when we were playing basketball outside. He was Shaq because he was taller. So I was Kobe. Delicious. Monsters are so good. It's had a little. This one is Ultra Vice Guava. I love Miami Vice. But anyways, Kobe Bryant. He's an amazing worker. Like some of the strongest work ethic is from him. And if you have the time to read the book, Winning or Relentless by Tim Grover, it talks a lot about Kobe. And Kobe was legitimately relentless with his goals. Like his coach, Tim Grover, and his like personal trainer is what he was. He would tell him, like, stop working out. Like, you need to let your body rest. Stop doing it. And Kobe would have to fight him on it. But anyways, he would go to the gym and he would practice the same shot thousands of times until he got the reps in. And if you think about that example, he's a professional NBA basketball player. He's used to crowds cheering. He's used to people, wanting him to sign their jerseys and like all this stuff. He's a celebrity, but he understood that in order to be the best in the NBA, he had to go and practice the same shot thousands of times, day after day, to make sure that in game time, he was able to make it happen. And he did. And brilliance happens in the early morning, in the lonely training sessions, in the meals prepped that no one's watching. Like, there's a concept that I love, which I've talked about on this podcast, called the discipline dividend. And basically what that is every rep that no one sees is a deposit in what you call your resilience bank, or what David Goggins calls the cookie jar. And every boring task is a brick in the foundation of your own success. So when you're doing the boring stuff, remind yourself that you're just adding another brick. And you may have heard there's like a quote out there that's like, hey, success is built brick by brick. This is a great analogy to use. Every time you do something that's boring, tell yourself, hey, another brick's added. And James Clear, he says this. He says, success is the product of daily habits, not once-in-a-lifetime transformations. So these things don't happen overnight. And if anyone does get overnight success, I would argue it's an anomaly, and that is not something that happens in the real world. If you want real lasting success, it's built on repetition. It's built on you refining your craft, spending more time on the thing, and eventually that success will come. And when it does, you will be rewarded for it. Now, here's where it gets real. We're going to be talking about how to keep going when the needle is not moving. Like, what do you do when the work is boring and when you don't feel like you're moving forward? Well, in my eyes, I think you reframe it. Reframing things has been one of the biggest hacks for anything. If I don't want to do something like training, for example, great opportunity to reframe how you think about training. Because whenever I'm feeling sorry for myself that I have to go and run a bunch of miles, or I have to go lift heavy in the gym, I remind myself that there's people out there that can't do it. And that it's a blessing for me to be able to go and move my body, and that I have no excuse other than I'm tired. And I think about those people that can't when I don't want to train. Reframe life as you can. Like, whenever there's an opportunity and you feel like you're not wanting to do something, try and reframe it. But we're going to be talking about the boring work specifically. So if the work is boring, then reframe it as, okay, I'm working. And if it's boring, then also say, I'm on the right track. And again, if it's boring, then maybe you're building something solid. Like, think of the gym. You don't see those biceps growing mid rep, right? You're not going to get Arnold reps or Arnold arms after a couple reps in the gym. The stacking of them, though, over time, or the progressive overload, whatever you want to call it, that will add up to where you have 22-inch biceps, whatever. Or maybe it's your business. Like, you send 100 emails, you get nothing back. It's crickets. And maybe 101 will change everything. You just do not know when the results will come. But you have to stay committed to doing the boring work. Like, progress is always quiet before it's loud. So here's what I recommend. 1, build a boring habit. Pick a rep that's a non-negotiable. And again, if you're writing a book, then maybe it's 250 words a day, no matter what. If it's you want to work out more, 3 workouts a week. No excuses. And if you're trying to build your business, I'm going to do 10 cold calls a day and just start there. But pick a boring habit that you're going to build. Second thing you need to do is track the reps and not the results. Like, you can't control when brilliance shows up. You have no idea. But you can control if you show up. We do not have control over outside events, but we have control of what we do. We have control of our daily decisions. We have control of how we act. You know, if we're going to live up to a virtuous life or whatever. You control if you work hard or if you push through with the boring work. Excuse me, sorry. These are all things that are within your control. And so if you take a step back and you say, well, I can't control when people respond to my emails. I can't control how I'm going to feel the next day after a workout. Like, just show up for you. If it means something to you, use that as fuel. Tell yourself, hey, this means something to me. I'm going to show up for myself just so I have the opportunity to have those results come. Now, the third thing is adopt the mantra, boring is building. Boring is building. Every day you do the work, even without results, you're separating yourself from 99% of the world that gives up when things are boring. So remind yourself that boring is building. And I think if you do those 3 things, you pick a boring habit, you work on it, you do the reps, you track the reps and not the results, and then you tell yourself when things are boring, you're building something great. That'll help you get through this work. I also think about like what Abraham Lincoln said. He said, discipline is choosing between what you want now and what you want most. So it goes back to the why. Is your why strong enough to push past what you want now for what you want in the future? Because if it is, then the boring work will just look like a stepping stone on your path. I'm sorry, guys. I got a tickle in my throat. Oh, wow. But it will look like a stepping stone. And again, you can just reframe how you look at it. And you look at it as a necessity. And kind of want to go back to the podcast example a little bit because it's a real life example. And I remember when I first started writing blogs and recording podcasts, like at first I had energy, I had this huge vision. But a few months in, the downloads were not there. The engagement was really low. And I started asking myself, like, is this even working? Is it? Because it wasn't at the time. And something inside just said, hey, keep going. And so I kept posting. I kept writing. And I still do. I'll write. Sometimes I'll get like 3 views on an article I write. But it's a good practice for me. And now after I've hit 100 episodes, like, it's cool hearing that people listen to this and they're like, hey, you have some great things to say. I'm not trying to brag here, but it's nice seeing the fruits of my labor actually come to fruition. And I don't think it's about grand gestures. It's just about that I stayed true to a goal that I had for myself. So whether it's fitness, the podcast, my relationships, like it's not about these grand gestures. It's about showing up again and again. Like that same thing is true for your own goals. And I want you to ask yourself this. Are you willing to be bored for as long as it takes? Because if you are, you're closer to brilliance than most people ever get. And everyone wants the highlight reel. They all want it. Few are willing to embrace what happens behind the scenes. Like if you're still here listening, if you're nodding along and you're feeling this, you're already doing it. Congrats. You're making progress. And I think it's also important to, like another hack that I would say to use, it's not even a hack, but talk to other people about your goals. Tell your spouse, your friends, your family, people that are close to you, people that you know will ask you about them. Ask them how it's going. Keep you accountable. Because accountability is good. And I think it's important to rely on your own discipline. But sometimes that is incredibly difficult to do. And sometimes when you're doing the boring work for months on end and you see no results, you will start questioning yourself just like I did. And you'll say, is this even working? But if you have other people behind you saying, hey, how's training going? You know, I remember a couple months ago you said you were going to start training more. So how's that been going? And you could tell them. You could say, you know, I started strong. I've been doing it consistently for 2 months. Haven't really seen the results I wanted, but I've been true to myself. I've been in this fight. How do you want to respond to that? But it's important. Like, have people around you that support your goals, that are excited for you when you reach certain milestones. Because if people are in your life and they're like, yeah, I didn't really see you as a runner, when you tell them like training's boring or whatever, get those people out of your life. You don't need people spewing negativity on the things that you enjoy doing. Like, this is a silly example, but I used to go out all the time with friends and sometimes family, and they would always give me such a hard time for what I would order because I was always kind of a chubby kid, but now I'm on a healthier journey, I would say. And I'll order a salad usually every time I go out to dinner. And people were always like, you know, we'd go to a barbecue place and they're like, why'd you get a salad? Like, this is barbecue. And it's like, well, it doesn't align with my goals. And some people were always giving me a hard time. Like, you come to a barbecue place, you get salad, like, whoa. And I don't go out to dinner with those people anymore. I don't spend time with them because I don't want to hear that negativity. And it might be a selfish thing to do, but like, I'm still nice to them. I'm just not going to go out to dinner with them. So it's important to have people that really also believe in you as you believe in yourself. And might sound corny, might sound cheesy, but I believe in you. If you're listening to this podcast that's focused on getting after it, that tells me that you have something in your life that you want to achieve. And if that is the case, then I believe in you because I was in the spot that you were once. At the very beginning of your goal, or you're in the middle of it and you see no results. You have to keep pushing forward. And you have to tell yourself that you're worth more than where you're at. And so building yourself up, like boring is building, is not a bad thing to tell yourself because you're refining it. And that person who you were isn't going to be who you are in the future because you're going to become something much greater. And it's because you embrace that boring work. It's simple, but it's not easy. That's one of the laws of combat that Jocko talks about. Keep it simple. But this whole journey is a very simple formula. It's you do the work and the results show up. You do the work, the results will show up. You do the boring work, the results will show up. Very simple formula. But it's not easy to do. That's why your why has to be anchored in something deep and personal for yourself. It's why you have to learn about yourself. And when adversity comes your way, that you're already ready for it because you've been expecting it on this journey. Let's land the plane here. Shout out to my wife. She's a pilot. Let's land the plane. Let's wrap this up. Let's finish strong because discipline is not always dramatic. Sometimes it looks like choosing a workout over a nap, writing a blog post when no one's even reading them, saying no to the donut when no one would even blame you or question you. But those choices compound over time. They shape who you become. Don't chase stimulation. It doesn't lead to a life of fulfillment. It leads to an empty lifestyle. Chase consistency. Don't wait for the motivation to come. Embrace the repetition instead. Aristotle says it best. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. And in that habit, even if it's boring, brilliance is going to be born. If today's episode hit home at all, share it with someone who's in the trenches. Could be your friend, could be your business partner, but someone who's doing the quiet work and no one's cheering for him. Because you are not alone. That person's also not alone. Like, I'm also here with you, doing the reps myself behind the scenes. And it is a lot of work. It takes commitment. It takes resilience. But the results are far greater than you ever could imagine. I promise you that. You're going to become someone who you never thought you could be. And if not, if you do all the work, the results don't show up, you can call me a liar. But I can guarantee you that won't be the case. You'll be coming to me and saying, hey, I did the boring work and now look where I'm at. And I'll be like, hell yeah, what's next? So my friends, keep stacking, keep building, and as always, keep getting after it. Thanks for listening, guys.